Thank you for finding the NSE podcast on YouTube. To find links for our online hospitality security training, check out the video description below. Enjoy the Nightlife Security Podcast.
This episode of Nightclub Security Podcast is brought to you by Black Diamond Radio by Custom Earpiece. Visit customearpiece.com.
Welcome to the Nightclub Security Podcast, a professional resource for the nightclub security industry. Whether you're a nightclub bouncer, guard, owner, or operator, this is the podcast for you. We're here to inform, educate, and entertain. Let's get started. Welcome to the Nightclub Security Podcast. This is your host, Manny Marquez, and as always, I'm here with security industry expert Robert C. Smith. Good day, Robert. How are you doing today?
Good, buddy. Doing great.
We are here from our little studio in Mission Hills, San Diego, just a little north of downtown San Diego on a crisp November day.
I knew you were going to mention that about the weather, and I'm just thinking about the 5 to 7 feet of snow they got in Buffalo. They're worried about a game and people's roofs caving in and no emergency services. And, dude, it's almost 80 degrees outside here.
Yeah, I actually was on the phone yesterday with a potential client from New Jersey, and I guess it was 10 degrees yesterday. So
I got 10 days till I go to D.C. This better all blow through.
I don't know. I think it's going to be they say a deep freeze. So, well, in the meantime, we'll enjoy our good weather here in San Diego. So I think we're very fortunate. Robert, I think today what I'd like to do is just go into our events calendar and then introduce our topic and get right into it.
Let's do it.
We're going to skip a news story this week. So calendar, what do we got on the horizon here?
The next thing coming up in just a couple of weeks is the Portland Bar Academy, December 1. It's a Monday. It's a new thing that the Old Town Portland, I guess I'm not sure their total name yet. I'm not sure that they know their total name yet. They started this group, a woman by the name of Nikki, a bar owner there, Nikki Jones, I believe, sat on one of my sessions in Vegas, went back to her town, talked to a couple of the bar owners, someone from the county there. They decided to do a bar academy and invite me up to speak. I'm going to give a couple of seminars on December 1st. So it's really unique that they're doing it, and I big shout out to them for at least trying it. Hopefully the attendance is good and we can get something going for a long term.
So this is Portland, Oregon.
Yep.
Was it Portland, Maine? Is there a Portland, Maine?
There is, but we'll be in Oregon.
Okay. And so basically the premise of the whole academy is different seminars, workshops, all specifically towards bar, restaurant, ownership.
Bar, club, restaurant, and it's a
operators.
single day, 7 hours, opening, some refreshments, sessions all day, targeted at these operators and their employees. So something really unique, I think. And
we'll have a link actually on the show notes for this particular event. So if you're in the Portland area and you're listening and you want to learn more about it, make sure you check in on that. Robert, after Portland, next week we're sending you all the way up to
Anchorage, Alaska. The Alaska CHAR, Cabaret Hotel Restaurant and Retailers Association. We've been working for years with them, and we finally got a partnership deal set. And Dale Fox, the director of the Alaska CHAR group, is bringing us up to do a training in the Anchorage region. We'll be doing it on Tuesday, Wednesday, December 9th and 10th at their offices. And we'll put another link up there.
I'm going to put you on the spot. What does CHAR stand for?
Cabaret Hotel Restaurant and Retailers, buddy. I already got it.
You got it already?
See, it went right over your head.
Do you think any of our listeners who are younger know who Johnny Horton is?
No.
Do you?
I'm an old guy, and I don't know who it is. What's a Johnny Horton?
He was a musician, North to Alaska. You don't remember that song?
I know the song came from a John Wayne movie.
Yeah, okay.
North to Alaska.
That's every time I hear Alaska, I think of North to Alaska. After that, following week, we got you in.
That's when I'll be in D.C.
D.C.
So I guess I saw your notice that you sent out to them. I guess my mistake was 10 days for early registration.
Correct.
I don't even look at my own calendar. So good. I got a month till I got to be out there. So hopefully this won't be a deep freeze. Yeah.
Early bird. 10
Monday
days.
and Tuesday, December 15th, 16th at Shadow Room in D.C. Skip Coburn helping us out there with DC Nightlife, getting us back there and doing another training session for them.
All right. And our next announcement, this is kind of in the not far too future, but we're talking about the nightclub and bar already.
This is a big one, audience. If you want to get a taste of what we do, you want to really get trained, you want to get a national certification, or if you're from California, get the licensing training out of the way, this is the stop for you. March 30 through April 2nd in Vegas, the Nightclub and Bar Show, biggest industry convention in the country for this industry. And we're hooked up to do our full hybrid training session.
So we'll be part of the pro workshop, which is basically the Monday before the actual expo and the regular sessions. And the way we're setting it up is we're going to have online signups. Once you sign up online, then you'll begin your online portion of the training, which is what we're calling this our hybrid system. So where the hybrid is basically part one you'll be doing online, and then the second part we'll be doing in person at the show, March 30th from 9:30 to 3 o'clock. So if you want some more information on what we're doing, our national certification program, those will be on the show notes as well. They'll also be on our events page on our website. You can also click through the Nightclub and Bar.
Yeah.
They'll have us put up on their...
So their site is nightclub.com. You go to the Nightclub and Bar Conference or the show. Our website would probably be the easiest on our calendar at nightclubsecurity.com. But I want to let you know, if you're anywhere in the country, Canada, Mexico, wherever you're at, and you're coming for this show, think about it. In Ohio, in Philadelphia, in Hawaii, in California, where those three, in Providence, if your jurisdiction mandates in-house guard training or bouncer or floor host training, this will meet or exceed that training. If you want to get a hold of us and let us know, hey, our city is mandating it, can you help us? I will be happy to do what I'm doing with those other cities. Send them a note, send them a letter, and try to get our program approved in their jurisdiction. So you're coming to Vegas, you've already taken the online portion, you go on Monday and you sit through the 5-hour in person, you walk out, and your training requirement is done.
All right, so that's what we have for announcements. Couple shout outs. We just got back from Manchester, New Hampshire. You worked with Tim Madden.
Yep, great event with Drink, the venue right there, one of the main drags there. Beautiful venue, large, mostly indoor, some outdoor for when they have some nice weather in summer. But Tim kind of made it mandatory, and I think once the guys got there, we had 20-something folks there, and there were some girls there, so I don't mean to say just guys, but folks, and they liked it. They showed up on time. They stayed after. The breaks were short. They wanted information, and that's the best type of training there is when you get that positive feedback early. So thanks, Tim. You got a good group. I look forward to working with you again.
You know what's interesting is I following up with Tim and asking him how the training went. And I think you were CC'd on that email, but Tim had some nice things to say. He said to the effect, I thought being in this business for 20 years, I thought training that we were going to go through was going to be mostly fluff. And I have to say that he got a lot out of the actual presentation and the training. And that's kind of like what we typically run into is people aren't quite sure what they're going to get with the training, but they're always on the positive surprise end.
Yeah, whether you're a grizzled, hardcore, you call yourself a bouncer, you embrace that term and what the job may mean to you and how serious it is, whether you wear a suit, tuxedo, or you're in a pair of shorts and flip-flops working the door at a beach bar in Manhattan Beach or whatever beach you're at, this isn't fluff. This is some real positive, informative, unique training, and it'll really get some points across that you may have not known.
Yeah, so Tim, Madden, the team from Drink, thank you so much for having us out there. We do appreciate it, and we look forward to working with you again in the future. Robert, like I stated earlier at the top of the show, we're going to go ahead and just skip news, but let's introduce our topic for today. And this is something that I don't think is talked about a lot when it comes to our business. And the topic is going to be sexual assault and prevention.
I was waiting for your intro. I didn't mention this to you. I was waiting for your intro to see what you said, but it's a topic that as a former cop, I first heard about sexual assault related to bars or clubs probably 20 years ago. You're an operator. When did you first start? When did you fart? When did you first start?
I first farted at
2 years old. That I remember. But as an operator, from the time you started operating, bartending all the way through your management career, when did you really worry, or when did you think, if at all, about your guests and sexual assault?
Honestly, it's probably a good 6-7 years into my management career where it became something of, I guess, consideration, or something that we would want to talk about because of something I saw.
Okay, so it was because of something you saw that you went, huh? And that was kind of the time for you to do something. But other than thinking about it and then mention it to maybe one or two people, did you do anything else? And I hate to put you on the spot, but I want to, because some of the listeners will be in the same boat.
I think it was actually around a time where it was during your training that topic came up.
Talked about date rape,
Yeah.
GHB, Rohypnol.
Yeah. So, I mean, as part of the training, that was part of the conversation, but it wasn't prevalent. It wasn't something that, we were more worried about over intoxication, that sort of issue.
So the topic that we came up with, the sexual assault and prevention, has been on our mind for about 8 months. The Chief Kathy Lanier out of D.C. brought it up as a point that they needed to address because they were getting some feedback from potential victims that felt they weren't getting the right due from police officers when they would make the complaint that they had been assaulted in some way. Now, right or wrong, true or false, she made a strong effort to address it, put it on their front burner. They made a push to get bars and clubs educated. Some of their staff sat in on our training that we do back there, and we contained about a 40-minute window of training for that. And I was really surprised. Her comments made national news in a lot of papers, and a lot of other police departments picked it up. As recently as yesterday, day before yesterday, in talking to the San Diego PD licensed administrator, Officer Bruce Getz, he mentioned the same thing, that they have received an increased number of complaints. They need to address it somehow, and they're not sure how to address it other than starting the dialogue. So we wanted to do a podcast, get you thinking about it, because it's not what you think it may be. Sexual assault is probably not, number one, on your radar, and number two, we typically only think about it related to date rape or acquaintance rape, GHB, ketamine, roofies, being roofied, that kind of thing. But this will surround primarily excessive alcohol consumption and the inappropriate behavior, and then later a possible sexual assault.
All right. Well, so before we dive into the specifics of the topic, let's take a short break, Robert. When we come back, we'll get into today's topic. Stick with us.
When Nightclub Security Consultants recommends radios to our clients, we recommend Black Diamond Radios by Custom Earpiece. Why? They're the best in the business. Simple as that. Tired of the high cost of replacing broken radios? It's time to beef up your nightclub communications. The Black Diamond CE450 radio is the most durable radio on the market. Black Diamond designed and built this radio with nightclubs and bars in mind. Made for high noise environments, the CE450 is shock and water resistant and has a long-lasting battery. Your security team has a tough job. They need a tough radio. For 2 years, if they can break the CE450 radio, Custom Earpiece will replace it. Period. No hassles, no questions. Need more than just radios? CustomEarpiece.com is your one-stop shop. Radios, headsets, custom ear molds, earpieces, adapters. Just go directly to CustomEarpiece.com for all your radio needs. Got a question? Call Custom Earpiece during business hours, and you will always speak to a live person, ready to assist you. CustomEarpiece.com customer service is second to none. Get 10% off your purchase today. Just click through the banner on the nightclubsecurity.com homepage or the Nightclub Security Podcast show notes. Use promo code NIGHTCLUB7. That's nightclub and the number 7. Visit CustomEarpiece.com and order today.
And welcome back. Today's topic, sexual assault and prevention. Robert, I'm curious, whereabouts within your training career did this topic come up?
It's actually kind of sickening, but a 7th grade girl, as a detective, a 7th grade girl was dating a high school kid, junior in high school. He had used Rohypnol that he got in Mexico, and he brought it back, and he slipped her 2 of them in a soda can. Now, if you're not familiar with it, you can look it up, but one single Rohypnol pill, and it's Rohypnol made by the company Hoffman LaRoche. They call them Rocha or Roofies or whatever. One single pill is about 5 to 6 Valium. It's extremely strong. It's used for anesthetic, strong medication, and he gave her 2. He assaulted her, raped her. His friends saw some things, and about a week later, she reported it. No blood level, no evidence other than her story, and the kid eventually admitted it. But that's the first I ever heard of a date rape or acquaintance rape. Now, imagine that. I'm a police officer, and I deal with this stuff every day. And as a detective dealing juvenile crimes, that's the first time I ever really wrapped my head around what this was. When I did my research with rape crisis centers, it's been around for dozens and dozens of years. It's just not a topic that's talked about. Women are afraid. They're embarrassed. They're shy. They feel some sense of guilt that it happened, that maybe they were possibly a part of the problem.
How many years ago was that?
That was, goodness.
Just curious.
That was probably 20 years ago.
When did you start incorporating it into the actual training that we do?
About 4 years ago, I added in, actually, when I first started the training, we did it from day one because we talked briefly on the different drugs that we see
club
within
drugs.
Correct. And roofies was the typical story of use of date rape. But what happened, what's really unique with roofies and Rohypnol, is Hoffman LaRoche, the company that I mentioned earlier, heard from the government that their drug was being used for date rape, and it was clear, odorless, colorless. You couldn't see it in any sort of drink. And they added a small layer of dye in the middle of their pill. So when you put it in any drink color, it would change the color and the texture, the look of the drink. And date rape using Rohypnol went down like 99%.
For the listeners, is it the same color every time, or?
Yeah, it's a small, thin layer of green dye that you would use for any food coloring, or it's totally benign, won't hurt you, but they just added it in the very middle of the pill, and it changes any color drink. So then the choice for date rape by the predators became GHB, gamma hydroxybutyrate, and GHB is a chemical that you can buy the different ingredients over the counter at different places. And honestly, up until about 16 years ago, you could go to a GNC. For you bodybuilders and weightlifters, you may still know where to get it. It's off the market, but you still may be able to find it as a bodybuilding component post-workout. You could find liquid GHB, and if you took it in stronger doses than what they recommended, it would really knock you out. More of a strong alcohol effect. And when Rohypnol went off the market as a date rape drug because of the color change, GHB really stepped up, and that's the primary date rape drug used now.
So far, we've talked about drugs being used. That's not always the case, right?
You know what? And I wanted to make sure we got there. It's probably only about 15%, if that, from what I know, from people I've talked to. And these are raw numbers. I have no secure data on this, but from women I've talked to that have been assaulted, raped, and assaulted, meaning unlawful touching or grabbing or groping or something else, it's only about 15% is a drug-related issue. The rest are all alcohol-induced, excessive alcohol consumption leading to inappropriate behavior that the woman has no knowledge of or can't say no.
And I think for most listeners right now, the scenario of alcohol lowering the inhibitions, activities that go on, that's in part where a lot of people go to bars, is because there's that meet and greet.
Let's hook up.
The meat market. So there's a very, very fine line of where we make this judgment call to do anything, if we do anything at all.
And most of you have seen the commercials by the NFL after they are like running for cover after Ray Rice. Well, they'll put the heads on the TVs of these guys talking, these famous football players, retired and active. No means no. No more, I didn't know, she didn't want to. No more, I wasn't aware. No more this and that. This is not just a recent issue. This has been around for a long time. It's just because of the NFL that we're starting to hear more about it.
And even locally, or
yeah, locally within the last 6 months, we've probably had, and I'm watching the news and keeping track in my own ticker, we probably had 9 or 10 sexual assaults in and around college campuses from San Diego State, USD, San Marcos, Southwestern College, where women have been walking from or going to their dorms and been attacked. Now, this isn't an alcohol-related issue that we know from the victims, but still, the idea of a sexual assault is becoming more and more noteworthy, prevalent, and it still may have been there, but people are reporting it more, and that's a good thing.
So, yeah, I think two things are happening. I think, one, the increase is just due to the younger generations growing up. I think
they're realizing that it's not something we should just accept and move on.
Yeah, so there's more reporting going on. I think that also, numbers of occurrences may actually be increasing the way that our younger generations are growing up with internet.
Freedom of choice, freedom of expression, promiscuity.
Yeah, and I think it goes back to some of our previous topics where we talked about younger generations relying on cell phones as a form of communication. There's really not that development of how do I act around people. And I think that's another contributing factor to it.
Well, one of the things, and I'll hit on a couple of these throughout this podcast, but one of the things I teach our guards when we train is we've all seen it. We've all seen the two guys. They're just normal-looking guys in the bar. I'll use the term a couple of douchebags in the bar because once you see it, you realize, what a couple of douchebags. And there'll be 3 girls dancing on the dance floor alone. We accept that. We've seen it time and time again. We've seen girls go to the bathroom together. We've seen girls dance together. We've seen them hold hands together. That's a normal occurrence for what we see in a bar or club. But then we'll see 2 guys walk out and just kind of look at each other and mosey on out to the dance floor, and they'll start bumping with these girls and dancing with them. And yes, 50, 60% of the time, the girls will just keep dancing and will accept the overt gesture of, hey, I'll dance with you, and they'll let them dance with them. But what I'm talking about is the times we have seen the girls turn away from them, move their hips away from them, and even walk off the dance floor. And we'll look at the guys when they kind of laugh and go back to their spots at the bar and go, what a couple of douchebags, and we drop it. We may have just witnessed the very beginning of the bridge to cross into sexual assault with those 3 girls allowing the rubbing and touching that was going on, but they didn't accept it and they walked away.
And I think, in any type of bar environment, it just happens. It happens on a nightly basis. And I think the message from us is, first of all, with the bouncers and the management, is just to be aware. Be aware when it begins. Be observant when it comes to body language, facial expressions, conversations. Like, you can see when a woman is receptive to a guy's advances.
There's nothing wrong with that.
And it happens all the time, but you also can tell when a woman is not. And then it becomes a decision when we're working in that environment is, what do I do next?
Correct. And am I in the position, number one, as an employee, can I do anything? And we'll talk about that later, but that's the other part, is what do I do and can I do anything?
All right. So where do you want to steer this conversation next?
Let's give the typical behavior that we see on a night-to-night basis. 2 to 3 girls, like I said, they consume some alcohol. They go to excessive consumption where they're just having fun. We're not worried about them driving. They're going to take a cab. They had a designated driver that is waiting around the corner, going to come and get them. But they're on the dance floor. One girl meets a guy. They drift away from the other 2. The other 2 aren't concerned because they trust their friend. But this guy gets them into a hallway by the bathroom, and they're talking. They're going outside for a cigarette. They're going out in the patio. She's to a point now that she's obviously intoxicated. She's not falling down. She's not anyone you would want to kick out. She's semi-attractive. This guy's met someone. He thinks it means something else. He's pushing it to mean something else. And because of the level of intoxication she has, she's not in any position to deny his advances. She may think she can, but her mind is not working correctly. So he gets her in the hallway. He gets her outside. There's some touching. She may even respond back with some kissing, but then he gets her to leave. And then the 2 girls will look for their friend, and you'll say at the door, oh, no, she left with the guy she was with. And the two girls will go, oh, and they'll try to text and call and no answer. And lo and behold, a day later when they finally talk to their friend, the guy took her to the apartment. She doesn't remember a lot of it. She feels bad. She's not sure what to do, that they had sex, but she didn't want to, but she just couldn't say no. She remembers in and out of him being on top of her, of him touching her, but she doesn't really remember a lot of it. And it's all related to the consumption and the overconsumption of alcohol. And that's the typical scenario you'll see. And most of the time, and I've talked to dozens and dozens of guards, they'll say, yeah, I see that all the time. Then it goes into what to do when you do see it. That's the typical scenario. Let me ask you, how many times have you seen that?
Oh, nightly.
Nightly.
Yeah, you see it. You see it all the time. But then the question is myself as a balancer or a manager, an operator, where do I step in?
And that's the tricky question. Well, let me ask you, and this is where I get the guards to really have that light bulb go on in their head. Nearly 100% of them have had a mother. 90% have had sisters or close female friends that they look to like sisters or cousins or someone they look up to or look down to. But I'll ask them, what if that woman drinking excessively, carrying on a little bit more promiscuous than you normally would see her, than she was acting 2 hours earlier, some guy that you saw just walk up to her and meet her, she's walking out with him. What would you do if it was your sister, family member, someone you loved, cared about? Wouldn't you think it'd be normal to say, excuse me, are you okay? Hey, do you know who this guy is? Do you know where you're going? Because you're looking out for their welfare. And when I tell them that, and we slow this down and we talk about it, I can physically see the light bulb go on in their head that they have a real moral dilemma or a moral responsibility to do just that. Treat this woman like it's your sister for that very moment in time, whether she leaves the dance floor and is uncomfortable with his touching early. What would you do? Walk up, say, hi, my name is Robert. You guys okay? I saw what happened on the dance floor. They're going to tell you, yeah, we're fine. We just didn't like that. It's creepy. We don't like him. Okay, now you know he was acting creepy. If you see it again, now you have every right to walk up and ask him, dude, you need to stop that. That's your absolute right, and it's your job. But if you just look the other way, the girls naturally assume nothing's going to be done. It's accepted. You've accepted it. And now it's up to them to fight it. A couple of more shots, they can't fight it. That's the beginning of what to do.
Well, I think there's two different types of what we're witnessing when we're working at the bars. There's the obvious, I don't like your come-ons guy, get away from me. And you see that body language. My typical response to that would be to walk up to the girl or the women and say, ladies, I noticed what just happened. I'm going to be over here keeping an eye on you. If you have any problems, just let us know. My name's Manny.
Perfect.
The second part.
And you may never hear from them again. They're comfortable. They feel that was perfect, and they don't have a problem. So remember that, guys, it's just courtesy to do that.
Well, there's some good reason. I mean, obviously the obvious reason is that you're protecting, but the other good reason is that when you establish that contact with the guest and they know that you have their best interests in mind and their safety in mind, especially women, that's a good PR move.
They're going to come back. They're going to tell their friends how they felt and how you made them feel right at that moment.
And if they have a problem later in the night, they know your name, they know to come to you, you're a friendly face.
They trust you.
Correct. But then there's the other type of event that we witness. There's maybe what starts with casual conversation. Everything looks like it's fine. Maybe the alcohol level comes up. Maybe we witness guys buying a couple rounds of shots for the girls. Then there's the progression of closer contact. Then you know that she's obviously didn't come with him. She didn't arrive with him, but she's now leaving with him. Is it our responsibility to then step in and say something?
Is it?
Well, that's the question.
That's the dilemma, and it's not a dilemma, but that's the dilemma I hear in my classes. The first thing, the guys aren't sure if they should, because people hook up. What does it mind to deny some guy to get a piece?
That's part,
and that's a ridiculous mindset. It's not your problem. You're right. You're not worried about that. What you're worried about is that woman or even that guy. In the case of gay bars, Is that person, the potential victim, making the appropriate decision based on everything you see? Their consumption, their level of consumption, their level of alcohol in them, their level of intoxication is what I mean to say. Are they making an appropriate decision that is reasonable? When they're at the door, you've noticed all the things that Manny mentioned, and they're walking out. Come on, 3 girls come together, 1 girl leaving alone. That's not normal. It happens. It's okay sometimes. But everything that Manny just said, you must make a simple hello, where you going? Can I talk to you for a minute? Try to separate them. Have someone talk to her. You talk to her. Have him stand there. Remember, normal is normal. So if this is a guy she wants to be with, her friends will come out and say, no, they're okay. Or if he's not looking to be a predator, he's going to do some normal things when you ask him normal questions. Would you mind if I got your ID? I just want to take a look at it so I'll remember the name. I'm not accusing you of anything. He can say F you. I'm not going to give you anything. Okay. How drunk is she? Do you need to hold her? Do you need to go find her friends? Is she that intoxicated that you're worried she is a victim and you need to notify authorities? I mean, there are a lot of variables there, but this is not this is not a hard decision to make. When they're walking out, you have to make some sort of contact just to make sure he knows, as a potential predator, you're on it. You're going to know him. You're going to know what it's all about.
And I think, as you're saying those different aspects of what we're dealing with, and I'm putting myself back into the place of being on the floor and working the floor and seeing a typical Friday or Saturday night, all these things happening. I think the main part for the listener is, 1, to be aware of it. 2, to make sure that by some respects you're making some proactive decisions to intervene in case something happens. And I know this is a hard topic because, 1, it might seem very legitimate and on the up and up, and these are 2 adults making their own decisions. And on the other side of it is, it might be an obvious where the person is out of their mind and they just don't know what they're doing.
Correct.
So the first part, I think, is really being observant. Really, when you're on the floor, and this is just, again, everything else that we preach and we teach is being observant, knowing body language, knowing facial expressions, being able to see things coming before they actually happen.
And proactively greeting and talking to guests.
And proactively doing something about it. And I think a lot of that activity, a lot of that posture that you present on the floor is what prevents things like this happening.
Absolutely. Look, in any sort of bad thing happening, the suspect, the thief, the bad guy, the predator, if they're put on notice that you're aware, even if they don't think you know their intentions, they think you know their intentions, if that makes sense to you.
Yeah.
I don't have to tell you, hey, dude, I think you're trying to get a piece because she's hammered and you're going to go rape her. You don't have to say that. He's going to suspect you think that. He's going to suspect. If he's a predator, he's going to suspect it. And just by your hello, how are you?
Like Robert's saying, is if you see something going on that looks suspicious, walking up and making an introduction, asking names, looking someone in the eye, and that might be enough to prevent.
You may have just saved a rape.
Yeah, that might be enough to prevent that predator from moving further because he now knows that you can identify him in the event that something does happen.
Here's the biggest question I get at these training sessions around the country about this topic. Well, Bob, can we make a detention? Now, mind you, we've already gone over detentions, what's legal in your jurisdiction, what's legal and allowable. And look, first off, let me say, you should always try to avoid using any sort of force in this type of contact.
So what you're setting up is a scenario where it's end of the night, couple's leaving. She might be just out of her mind, doesn't know where.
Got her arm around a guy, head down, hair flopping all over, carrying her shoes. He's carrying her shoes. His arm is around her, and he's carrying her out.
Yes. So this is the scenario we're setting up. You're saying, what do I do then?
Hey, folks, doing? You need a cab? You all right? Is she okay? How much has she had? She looks pretty drunk. Go ahead and do that like you would with any drunk. But you stop them from leaving immediately just by saying hi. Have you made a detention yet? No. You're being hospitable, offering a cab, checking their welfare, doing what you should do. Now, this isn't everyone. This is the woman being carried out. Then, now he says, no, we're fine. We're leaving. Hang on just a minute. Okay, now you're getting into the area of making a formal detention. You're not letting him leave. Ask yourself why you're doing that. Manny, cold question here. What's the reason you're doing it? Why are you stopping them and not letting him leave? What are you worried about? Tell me what's in your gut.
I'm suspicious of his intent.
A possible crime is about to occur.
Yes.
And possibly, what is her medical condition right now? Does she need help? So therein lies a reasonable reason to stop and detain them to find out those answers. Now, in California, the penal code says you can stop someone to detain them for a felony or a misdemeanor committed in your presence. This may be a felony. You don't know how she got that intoxicated. You could argue it on many different levels that this is an absolute legal detention based on what you see and what she's not telling you because she can't. At minimum, you've made the detention long enough, 5 minutes, 2 minutes even, to discuss these points with him, try to separate the two, try to locate her friends. They may come out and all of a sudden they say, I don't know who that guy is. What happened to her? We've all had the same thing. Now you realize you have a predator. He's got her this way. He may run. Let him run. Let her report it to the police. You have a good description. You have cameras, hopefully. But he's gone. No crime has occurred now. She didn't get assaulted. Her friends came out. If the friends don't come out, let him know in no uncertain terms. If you choose to let them walk, let him know. Well, I hope nothing happens. We've got video. We don't have her ID, but I'm sure we'll find her friends and we'll find out who she is. And again, that predator now is on notice.
Well, I've been in that same scenario multiple times to where it's questionable. And here's been my approach to it. As they're leaving, my first concern is I ask, is she okay? I try to get some sort of assessment onto her level of coherence. I then ask the guy his name. I then ask, do you know her name? Do you know her last name?
And why are you doing that?
Well, I'm gauging by his reaction how well he knows this woman.
Right.
And, I'll ask him his relation to her. Did you just meet her? Where do you intend to go? And I'm posing all these questions because I'm getting some sort of response from him that will allow me to determine what do I do next.
Correct.
So a lot of it for the guards and for people working in the club is you just want to start asking questions to see the reaction and the response to those questions. Therefore, that gives you some more information of how to address it.
One of the classic cases was out of D.C. with a venue. We talked about it. It's probably been 5 years. The guard took the class, and it was a Saturday class, Saturday night. He did just all of the things you just described coming out of the door. He lightly detained them, talked to them, got the girl's name, got the guy's name, sent another guard in, couldn't find her friends, told the guard. He kind of gestured with his hand pointed up, and the guy, the predator, looked up and realized there was a camera there. And the guard said to him, look, I don't know that anything's going to happen. We're just looking for her to be safe. We don't know who she is. You don't know her last name. We don't know how long you've been together. He laid it out for the guy. 10 minutes later, they've left, and he sees an ambulance pull half a block down the street. And he tells his manager. He goes down there, and there's that same female in a doorway of a closed business. So what can we deduce happened? The predator walked her down there, realized he wasn't going to do it because he's risked getting caught, dumped her in a doorway, and someone came by. Some random citizens came by, saw how she was passed out, and called police. He just by that action at the door, he prevented a sexual assault that could have changed that girl's life.
Yeah, and another recommendation is, if cameras aren't involved, another thing that I would do is I would ask to see his ID. May I see your ID? I want to make sure she's going home with somebody that's going to be taking care of her.
And another case, they did just that, but the guard knew he was going to detain this guy. The manager was 10 feet away, pulled out his cell phone and took a picture of the three of them. The guard's back, the predator's front, the girl's passed out. And he got a picture of him just in case the police came 3 days later saying, hey, we had a sexual assault. It may have occurred here. We're looking for this. The manager's got a picture.
So, again, for the listener, what we're doing is, one, our behavior might be preventing something that's about to happen. And then the other part of it is if something does happen, we now have some more information to give the authorities to hopefully find
To help that victim.
So, Robert, where else can we go with this topic?
Well, I'll leave you with what I started with when I talked about the class, is when you're deciding as a guard, as a manager, whether to make that simple detention at the door, whether to interact at the dance floor, in the hallway, when you see something that just doesn't feel right with a guy hanging, talking, grabbing, macking on some girl, what would you want someone else to do if that was your sister and she was so intoxicated she couldn't make an appropriate decision to say no? You, of course, would want someone to interact and possibly prevent that victim from becoming a victim. And that's what you need to do.
And I'll button it up here with just saying, again, a lot of this is just being aware. And if you're good at what you do, if you're good at your job, you're good about reading people's body language, facial expressions, and you can almost discern the conversation that's being had. And you could be 20 feet away. You can tell what's going on.
Well, and we watch a lot of people, and guys, I've had guys tell me certain girls they've remembered that come in, 2 or 3, they're dressed really nice, they have a couple of cocktails, and within about an hour, one is extremely intoxicated, dancing provocatively, doing things that from an hour ago you would have never guessed she would do. Now, this could be, again, very innocent, and that's what she is. Okay. But what if it's not? What if she is over-intoxicated to the point that she's going to start making those bad decisions or has been slipped something? You need to be there to help protect her.
Robert, before we close, you mentioned something in the last training that I just remembered. With the use of GHB, what are some symptoms that you might find within your club that this might be an issue?
Well, the symptoms, I think, are rapid intoxication. That's the biggest symptom that you'll see with a victim.
What are
the signs? Here's something, fellas. This just happened, and I think Manny's bringing it up because a couple of the guards were, oh, wow, when they heard this because they'd seen this and they didn't know what it was. Ask yourself this. How many times when you've closed up shop, your lights go up, people are pushed out of the room, the lights go up, you're putting stools on the table, chairs up on the tables, you found empty Visine bottles. Small little bottle of Visine that you buy at the CVS pharmacy. The Visine bottles and that bottle is the most common transporter for GHB. GHB is a liquid, odorless, colorless, and tasteless. It foams a little bit slightly like Visine would when you shake a bottle of Visine. But a Visine bottle, the top comes right off. It pops back on. It's used in the club to put GHB in the drink. And then it's dropped on the ground because they don't need it. If you're telling yourself, well, you know what, I find those all the time. Now, it may only be once a week, but that's a precursor for someone who's using a date rape drug in your club. Let me ask you, and this, I know the answer, but let me ask any of the listeners, when was the last time you ever used a bottle of Visine and it was emptied? You used it all the way to gone. What happens, Manny, when it's in your car?
Well, the only time it ever gets finished is if it stays at home.
Yeah.
But otherwise, you'll lose it. It's like chapstick.
It's like chapstick.
Chapstick, you never finish.
It's in your car. It's in your bathroom. It's in your bedroom. It's on your bedside. It's wherever. But you never empty a bottle of Visine. It's rare. So when you're finding an empty bottle of Visine or 2 or 5 a week at your club, someone's bringing in a liquid GHB. They're putting it in their drink or someone else's drink, and they're throwing the bottle on the ground. If you got that happening, you have the signs of girls being carried out. Excessive intoxication, rapid intoxication, over-intoxication, and you haven't noticed them. You have to open your eyes and look for this stuff. It's part of your job.
So yeah, it was just something that I remembered from the last training session. So is there anything else, Robert, that you want to?
Just, when you're worried, act on the worry. If it feels funny, it probably is funny. And when you see that at the end of the night, act on it. Even if nothing happens, you've done nothing wrong by slowing someone down and then maybe taking a picture and documenting it. You've done nothing wrong. You've only helped yourself and that potential victim.
And I think that for the guard that feels as if this isn't really his or her responsibility, I would say, yes, it is. It is our job when we're working in that environment to protect the people that are our guests. And part of that protection comes in the form of preventing sexual assault. So just up the level of awareness is about.
Yeah, and you know what? Feel free to share this. If you like this podcast, especially because of the topic, you have a female friend, you have people that are in the industry that might want to hear this information that are not bar people, share it. Send it to someone at a crisis center. Send it to police officers if you like it, because this is something that needs to get out there just to be discussed more.
And there's probably some more nuances around this topic that we could probably get into. But so if you have questions, definitely email those to questions@nightclubsecurity.com. Like us on Facebook. Search Nightclub Security Consultants.
Or I think it's Bouncer Training.
Bouncer Training is the URL. Twitter.
Follow us on Twitter at Bouncer Coach.
And if you enjoyed what you heard today, if you think this is good information, we'd really like to grow this community. So I'd like to encourage everybody to share it with a fellow bouncer, a fellow manager, somebody, an associate in the industry. We'd really like to grow this community and be a resource to provide better information, discussion points, and help you guys do your job better and create a more safe, secure atmosphere for your guests. So,
yep.
I think that's it for today. We'd like to thank you for joining us. Appreciate you spending the time with us. My name is Manny Marquez.
I'm Robert Smith.
And be nice.